Kevin, your budget travel guy here, and as you can see, I am in the bigger van tonight because the small van is still down. If you follow the channel, you know I have two vans. We're going to be working on that minivan, hopefully here in the next few days, get it going again so we can get back to doing those videos a lot of you want to see on how we did the build on that thing and what we carry and what we don't. In the meantime, we're of course going to be throwing up more of those Route 66 and West travel videos from an earlier trip, and we're going to be throwing some other videos in here just about travel and budgeting and things that you may need to know in general. So we're going to detour off kind of all the way back to the beginning, a question I get a lot, and that question is,
how did you get started?
how did I get started? Okay, here's how we kind of got started in this. Before there was a van, anything, my father actually has an RV, does very little with it, spends 51.5 weeks every year in his yard, doesn't go very far with it, good intentions, but so be it. I have no desire, for me personally, RV is too big, too much hassle, so that was it. Things change in life, I've gotten to do some things, but there were a lot of years that I didn't take vacations. I let life get in the way. I let work get in the way. So I decided I was due that time and was going to have, a couple of years back, pretty much the trip of the lifetime. That I was going to take a month off and see if everything could survive without me. Guess what? It can. See if things could survive without me and just spend a month traveling. And the loose plan was leaving this Tennessee, Virginia area, going up through Kentucky, rolling up through Illinois by the Mississippi River, and crossing over into Iowa, pretty much the first town, this little place called LeClaire, which is where the American Pickers are headquartered. And along the way, there was this little bridge that was an original part of 66 that's shut down now, and I wanted to be able to ride my bicycle across the Mississippi on this bridge. And that was as far as we had this trip planned. What we did have planned is I was going to stay gone for 30 days. We were going to have a budget of roughly $150 a day, so this was going to be a $5,000 trip. So we were going to be staying in dive hotels, and we had a little tent, so we were going to be doing some tent camping in the more expensive touristy areas where, you know, the cost of a hotel was going to be a couple $100 a night, would have blown the budget. So we knew nothing about free camping, that kind of stuff. This trip was done in a car. It was great. We kept going through Iowa. We got into South Dakota. We got to see Mount Rushmore. Lots of great things. The Badlands. Ended up going on over to Devil's Tower in Wyoming. Circling back around. Ended up being gone 33, 34 days. Hit right within what our budget was. Once in a lifetime. The thing was that when I got back from this trip, I started thinking, man, I would like to do that again. And I would like to do that more. And I would like to spend more time traveling and seeing America, because that's what my goal always was, and I seem to have gotten distracted in life from that. The goal of working and making money was being able to travel. And for me, I think that comes from the fact that I never got to do that really as a kid. So I want to be out there. I want to be out there exploring, but I can't pay $5,000 a month for the privilege of doing so. So if I could figure out how to get the expenses down and figure out how to get the costs down, I could actually spend more time on the road. So a lot of what this channel is going to be about is how I was able to do that, and hopefully a lot of those things will apply to you and whatever dreams and goals that you are trying to achieve when traveling. Short version, the next time I spent 30 days on the road, and again this was a cross-country trip, basically Tennessee to California and back. Again, spending the same roughly 33, 34, 35 days, and our cost of traveling, this was in the minivan, with still being able to eat well, still being able to do everything we wanted to do, that cost now came down from $5,000 to less than $2,000. Because pretty much what ate up over half of that $5,000 trip budget that time was hotel rooms and camping areas. So once we learned there were places to camp cheaper and places to camp free and what we needed to carry to be able to do so and all of these things, it brought the cost down. And every trip, those costs keep going down. And if we were staying in an area more than a day or two at a time, which pretty much is the way we travel, and you can stay in those places that are free or low cost for 3 and 4 days here and 7 days here and really get to enjoy those areas, now you cut out all of your gas costs and everything, and you can travel much, much cheaper. So on the trip that cost, let's say, $2,000 that we took last year to be gone 30, 35 days, if we had stayed gone for 2 months, that average per month would have gone down because it was costing us almost nothing to camp. The only extra expense we would have had was for food, and what we were spending on fuel, which ended up being roughly $700 in the minivan on that trip, would now, instead of spending $700 a month, maybe you're dividing that $700 over 2 months or over 3 months. And now your average cost per month to stay out there is going down, down, down. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
So for me, it come down to this. The trip of a lifetime, vacation of a lifetime, being gone for a month was great, but I want more of those, more and more and more, and I want to be able to do that more and more and more, and I want to be able to take several of those a year, or I want to be able to extend those out to 2, 3, 4 months at a time. And that's what we're going to be talking about in a lot of future videos, is how to do that, how to get that cost down to where you may be able to stay on the road and do those things and get that cost down to $1,200, $1,000, even less than that per month to be able to be out here doing this. And you don't have to have the world's most expensive vehicle to do it. You know, the minivan was less than $2,000 when I bought it, and that we used just for traveling and took several of these trips in. So you don't need a fortune to be able to do this. And modifications to that minivan was probably $400, $500 altogether with the modifications and the equipment that we carry. So it doesn't have to be that expensive for you to do something similar. You just have to be smart about it and make the right decisions, and we're going to get into that with you in future videos. Feel free to ask a question. We'll now take questions from the audience. Anyone. Don't be shy. Don't be shy.
How do you know what you need to get started?
You don't. A lot of it is common sense. A lot of it is things that you learn along the way. And especially traveling in a smaller vehicle, whether you're in a minivan, whether you're in, you know, you've converted a cargo van is your dream, whether you have some type of pop-up trailer, you're going to be doing tent camping, whatever, is figuring out the very least that you can live with. Because everything you take that you end up not using and not needing, that you're having to pack and unpack and move around every day, is just going to be crap that's in your way. So more important than what you need to take sometimes is what you don't need to take and what you can live without. And one of those things with the minivan, and that we talked about, the reason I built that van the way I did, if you watched that initial minivan video that I did a few months ago where we were talking, is I intentionally did the height of that bed to be able to sit on the bed either side with those big sliding doors and not have to carry folding chairs, lawn chairs, whatever you want to call them. Because having 2 or 3 of those in there is just more stuff that you've got to constantly move around every night, and it's constantly in your way. So if having a folding chair or whatever is important to you, then that's fine. You know, you can take it and you should take it and you should do it. But it was things that we were able to eliminate having with us and dealing with altogether, which gave us more space and saved us a lot of hassle. There's videos coming that I'm working on now, both in the smaller van and the bigger van, that are going to detail exactly what we carry, exactly what we don't, and the reasons for those. You there, young lady in the middle, you look like you have something on your mind.
So when you're first starting out, should you stay at parks, or just your first time out, just find a free beach, or what? What would you suggest a first timer do?
I think what you really need to do if you're really starting out is camp in your yard. As silly as that may sound, or maybe go to something, 10, 15 miles from your house and spend a night here and a night there. And kind of get a feel for, and these next videos we're doing about what you should carry and shouldn't carry are going to help you, but get a feel of what you're actually going to be using and not using, because quite honestly, if you're in a minivan, you're in a small cargo van, you're in a pop-up, you're not going to be able to have table settings for 8 or 16. And these things that we're used to having in our homes, there's things you're going to have to do without, or you're going to have to find multiple uses for, because you're dealing with such limited space. And in videos, especially where I'm concerned, you're going to hear the word trade-off a lot, because everything is a trade-off. Comfort and convenience versus space. Comfort and convenience versus space, and the hassle of storing it, moving it constantly. Anyone?
Just a guess, but I'm guessing solar lights, like the dollar, solar lights would come.
Ma'am, give these other people a chance to ask a question. Don't hog the floor. I'm sorry. Go ahead with your question.
I was just thinking, instead of going out and buying the big solar packs, because if you don't know what you're doing,
solar panels,
yeah.
Oh.
If you don't know what you're doing and you haven't done it enough, a good basic thing would be like little solar lights.
I'm going to do right, and that is, and there's ways around it. There's little miniature battery packs, and there's some things you can do. Again, part of the trade-off thing. Solar is great, and we are going to go in that direction, but we have made it this long, and we have gone on these long trips and spent, a month and longer at a time on the road without having solar panels up till now, and really haven't missed it. So it can be done, but it does add to, your level of comfort and convenience to be able to have those. So we are going to be going in that direction in the next few months. One thing, though, to think about, if you try to make everything perfect before you get to go, you will never leave. At some point, you learn what you can, and you make the best choices you can, and at some point, you just have to pack the vehicle, whatever vehicle it is, and you just have to go and start figuring it out. Now, hopefully, my videos will help you and ease you through a lot of that process. But the thing is, especially in the spring, summer, and fall, you can live without those solar panels. In order to start getting out in nature and enjoying these things and enjoying exploring, if that's what you like to do. And people have done this for decades and decades and decades before solar panels. This is just something that's basically taken off here in the last 5 or 6 years. And while from a technology standpoint it's a great thing, people were able to do this before. So you can do this without solar panels. It is not a requirement. It is a nice add-on for later. But don't let that keep you from starting your journey.
Always carry an atlas.
No. Always carry an atlas.
Always. Don't depend on electronics.
Don't depend on electronics. Because you will find places that electronics don't work. you need a map, an atlas. You need to know how to read a map, an atlas. And if you're not good at that, you need to get one in practice, because trust me, it is going to come in very useful. Again, with the electronics, people made it for decades and decades and decades doing things with a paper map. You sound much like the lady that asked the last question. Are you all related?
Yeah.
Boy, the men in this group are awfully quiet.
They don't ask for directions. What makes you think they're going to ask for something they don't know?
There you go. I'm not above stopping to ask for directions.